The courtroom was already full when I walked in. Every seat was occupied. Lawyers whispered over thick files. Reporters stood near the back, hoping today's divorce hearing would turn into another ordinary family drama. My husband's relatives filled an entire row, dressed in expensive clothes and wearing the same smug smiles they had worn for years. The moment they saw me standing alone, the laughter began. There she is. She couldn't even hire a lawyer. This will be over in 10 minutes. My mother-in-law leaned toward my husband and laughed loudly enough for everyone to hear. I told you she couldn't afford an attorney. My husband, Daniel, didn't say a word. He simply adjusted his expensive suit and smiled as though the outcome had already been decided. They believed I was weak. They believed I was scared. Most of all, they believed I had come to court completely unprepared. None of them knew the truth. I slowly placed my small folder on the counsel table. Inside it wasn't just paperwork. It contained 3 years of evidence. Evidence that could destroy every lie Daniel and his family had ever told. I looked across the courtroom and met Daniel's eyes. For a brief second he looked confident. Then he noticed something in my expression. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't angry. I was ready. That tiny change in my face made him hesitate. It was the first crack in his confidence. The judge entered the courtroom. All rise. Everyone stood. The laughter stopped, but I could still feel their confidence filling the room. As the judge took his seat, my mind drifted back to the day I first met Daniel. 5 years earlier. He had been charming, kind, successful. At least that's what everyone believed. We met at a charity fundraiser in Boston. I had recently accepted a management position at a non-profit organization. Daniel introduced himself as a successful real estate investor. He knew exactly what to say. He remembered every detail I mentioned. He sent flowers to my office. He called every evening just to ask how my day had gone. Friends told me I'd found the perfect man. Even my parents admired him. Within a year we were married. Looking back now, I realize something important. Abusive people rarely reveal themselves at the beginning. They become your safe place first. Only later do they become your prison. The first year of marriage felt wonderful. Weekend trips, romantic dinners, plans to buy a larger home. We talked about children, about growing old together, about building a future. Then little things began to change. Daniel started criticizing my clothes. You'd look more professional if you dressed the way I suggest. First it sounded like advice. Soon it became a rule. Then he criticized my friends. They're jealous of us. You don't need them anymore. One by one my friendships disappeared. Then came my family. Your parents interfere too much. You don't have to visit them every weekend. Eventually the phone calls became shorter. The visits became less frequent. Without realizing it, my entire world became centered around Daniel. That was exactly what he wanted. Isolation, control, pendants. Every decision required his approval. Every purchase needed his permission. Even though I earned my own salary, he convinced me to deposit everything into our shared account. It'll make budgeting easier. Instead, it gave him complete control over every dollar I earned. When I questioned him, he smiled. Don't you trust your own husband? Those words became his favorite weapon. If I questioned anything, I was the problem. If I cried, I was too emotional. If I argued, I was disrespectful. Somehow, every disagreement ended with me apologizing, even when I had done nothing wrong. The emotional manipulation became so normal that I stopped noticing it. Then his family joined in. His mother constantly reminded me that I wasn't good enough. His sister criticized everything I did. His father rarely spoke to me unless it was to point out another mistake. Daniel never defended me. Instead, he'd quietly agree with them. I think they're only trying to help. Help. That word made me laugh now. Because none of them wanted to help. They wanted obedience. One Thanksgiving dinner changed everything. Daniel's mother stood in front of everyone and announced, If Daniel had married someone wealthier, he'd already owned 3 more properties. The table exploded with laughter. Everyone laughed, except me. I looked at Daniel. Surely he'd say something. Surely he'd defend his wife. Is it? He laughed too. That was the exact moment something broke inside me. For the first time I realized I wasn't part of the family. I was simply someone they enjoyed humiliating. I wanted to leave. Daniel grabbed my wrist beneath the table. His smile never disappeared. Sit down. His voice was calm, but the pressure on my wrist hurt. That night I cried myself to sleep. He never apologized. Instead, he acted as though nothing had happened. Weeks turned into months. The emotional abuse slowly became financial abuse. Then psychological abuse. He tracked my spending, checked my phone, demanded passwords, questioned every minute I spent away from home. If I worked late, he accused me of lying. If I smiled at a coworker, he accused me of cheating. Nothing I did was ever enough. Yet in public, he played the role of the perfect husband. Everyone admired him. Nobody believed me. Not yet. Then one evening, I accidentally discovered something that changed everything. Daniel had left his laptop open on the dining table. A notification appeared. First I ignored it. Then another appeared. And another. The messages weren't from a business partner. They were from a woman named Vanessa. My hands began to shake. I clicked the conversation. The first message stole my breath. She still doesn't suspect anything. Kept reading. Every sentence felt like another knife in my heart. Vanessa wasn't just his girlfriend. She knew everything about me. She knew about our marriage. She even joked about how easy it was for Daniel to manipulate me. Then I found something even worse. A spreadsheet. It listed my savings, my retirement account, insurance policies, property documents. Everything had been carefully organized. At the bottom of the file was one sentence. After the divorce, she'll walk away with almost nothing. I stared at the screen in complete silence. This wasn't simply betrayal. It was a plan. A carefully prepared plan. And in that moment, I made a decision that would change every one of our lives. I didn't confront Daniel that night. That was exactly what he expected me to do. He knew me well enough to believe I'd cry, scream, and demand answers. Instead, I quietly closed his laptop, washed the dishes, and acted as if nothing had happened. When he came downstairs, I smiled. Long day. He nodded without looking at me. You have no idea. I almost laughed. No, Daniel. You had no idea. That night, while he slept peacefully beside me, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. For the first time in years, I wasn't thinking like a frightened wife. I was thinking like someone preparing for a battle. If Daniel wanted a divorce that left me with nothing, he had already made one mistake. He had underestimated me. The next morning I started collecting evidence. Not dramatically, not recklessly, patiently. Every receipt, every bank statement, every email, every text message, every suspicious transfer. I copied everything onto a small encrypted flash drive and hid it somewhere Daniel would never think to look. Inside an old sewing kit my grandmother had given me years ago. He never touched it. To him it was just another useless box. To me, it became the safest place in the house. Over the next few weeks, I paid closer attention than ever before. Daniel wasn't just cheating. He was moving money. Large amounts. Sometimes $20,000. Sometimes $50,000. Always into accounts I had never seen before. Whenever I asked about our finances, he smiled. Investment opportunities. I simply nodded. Inside I was keeping score. His family continued treating me like an outsider. Sunday dinners became public performances. His mother criticized my cooking. His sister mocked my career. His father acted as though I didn't exist. Daniel watched every second without saying a word. Sometimes, he even joined them. It wasn't the insults that hurt anymore. It was realizing they enjoyed hurting me. One afternoon I received an unexpected phone call. It was from Daniel's accountant. I think I sent something to the wrong email. Before I could answer, a document arrived in my inbox. It contained financial statements. Hundreds of pages. Apparently, he realized the mistake almost immediately. A minute later, another email arrived. Please delete the previous attachment. Wrong recipient. Too late. I'd already downloaded it. Inside those files was proof that Daniel had hidden assets long before filing for divorce. Properties, investment accounts, offshore transfers, luxury purchases, everything carefully concealed. I printed every page before deleting the email from my inbox. Then I backed everything up twice. If one copy disappeared, another would survive. I finally decided to tell someone. Not my parents. They worried too much. Not my friends. Most of them barely knew the truth. Instead, I visited someone I hadn't spoken to in almost 3 years. My former college professor. Professor Helen Carter. She had taught business law before retiring. When she opened the door, she looked surprised. Emily. It's been a long time. She smiled warmly. It has. The moment I sat down, I couldn't hold the tears back anymore. For nearly 2 hours I told her everything. The manipulation, the isolation, the affair, the hidden money, the planned divorce. She listened without interrupting. Finally, she asked one simple question. Do you have proof? I placed the flash drive on the table. Her expression changed. How much proof? I answered quietly. Enough to destroy every lie. She spent nearly 3 hours reviewing the files. Finally, she removed her glasses. Emily. Yes. They're going to underestimate you. I know. And that's exactly why you can win. I frowned. Without a lawyer. She smiled. You don't need to know everything. You only need to know the truth. Then she spent the next several weeks teaching me. Not how to become an attorney, but how to understand my own case. She explained court procedures, financial disclosures, evidence rules, how to stay calm during questioning, how to answer only what was asked. Most importantly, she taught me never to argue with emotions, but only facts. Every evening after work I studied legal terms, court procedures, financial records, case law. The woman who had once doubted herself slowly disappeared. Someone stronger replaced her. Meanwhile, Daniel grew even more confident. One evening he tossed divorce papers onto the kitchen table. I think you'll find these fair. Opened them. He wanted almost everything. The house, the investments, most of our savings, even furniture my parents had purchased before our marriage. I looked up. This is your offer. He smiled. It's generous. Generous. The word almost made me laugh. I'll think about it. His confidence grew. I suggest you don't wait too long. I folded the papers neatly. I won't. The next day, I quietly filed my official response. I rejected every unfair demand. Daniel received the notice 2 days later. When he confronted me, he looked irritated. I thought you'd sign. I changed my mind. He stared at me. Who are you talking to? No one. You have a lawyer. No. He smiled again. There it was. That arrogance. The same arrogance that had blinded him for years. Then this will be easy. I simply nodded. I suppose we'll find out. Word spread through his family quickly. His mother called me. Don't embarrass yourself. His sister sent a text. You're wasting everyone's time. His father left a voicemail. Just sign the papers. I ignored every message. Silence became my greatest weapon. The less I reacted, the more confident they became. A month before the hearing, something unexpected happened. Vanessa contacted me. Daniel's girlfriend. First I thought it was a prank. Then I answered. Her voice was shaking. I need to tell you something. I'm listening. I didn't know everything. What do you mean? He lied to me too. She explained that Daniel had promised to marry her after the divorce. He claimed I was unstable, that I refused to let him leave, that I was trying to ruin his life. Sound familiar? It was the exact same story he'd told everyone else. Then she said something I never expected. "I have recordings." My heart skipped. What kind of recordings? Phone calls, videos, messages. He never knew I saved them. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Finally, she whispered, "I think he's more dangerous than either of us realized." That moment, I understood something. Daniel wasn't losing control because of me. He was losing control because his own lies were beginning to collapse. And by the time we stepped into that courtroom, he wouldn't be facing the frightened woman he had spent years trying to break. He would be facing the only person who knew every secret he had buried. The morning of the hearing arrived faster than I expected. I woke before sunrise. For a few moments, I simply sat on the edge of my bed, listening to the silence. 3 years earlier, I would have been terrified. Today, I felt something completely different. I had done everything I could. The truth was no longer hidden inside a flash drive or locked away in my thoughts. It was organized, labeled, ready. I put on a navy blue suit, tied my hair back, and looked at myself in the mirror. For years, I had looked into that mirror searching for the woman Daniel said I should become. That morning, I finally saw the woman I already was. I picked up my folder, locked the front door behind me, and drove to the courthouse. The courthouse parking lot was already crowded. As I stepped out of my car, I noticed several luxury vehicles parked near the entrance. Daniel's family had arrived. His mother spotted me first. She whispered something to his sister. Within seconds, both of them were smiling. By the time I reached the courthouse steps, they were laughing openly. "Look who came alone. I guess she really couldn't afford a lawyer." Daniel stood beside his attorney, a well-known divorce lawyer who had won dozens of high-profile cases. His confidence was obvious. He looked at me for only a second before turning back to his lawyer. I wasn't a threat. I was a formality. Inside the courthouse, people filled every hallway. Lawyers hurried from one courtroom to another. Clerks pushed carts stacked with files. Families sat nervously on wooden benches. I found an empty seat outside courtroom 6 and quietly reviewed my notes one last time. Every page was exactly where it needed to be. Every document had a matching exhibit number. Every timeline was complete. I wasn't hoping the truth would appear. I had brought it with me. About 20 minutes later, Daniel walked past me with his lawyer. His attorney smiled politely. "Good morning. Good morning." He looked around. "Your attorney running late?" "I don't have one." His smile widened. "I see." Daniel couldn't hide his satisfaction. He leaned toward me. "You should have accepted my offer." Closed my folder. "I'll take my chances." He chuckled. "I admire your confidence." I met his eyes. "It's not confidence. It's preparation." For the first time that morning, his smile faded just a little. The courtroom doors opened. Case number 24 to 317. Everyone entered. The courtroom was larger than I expected. Dark wooden walls, tall windows, an American flag beside the judge's bench. The gallery quickly filled. Daniel and his attorney sat at one table. I sat alone at the other. His family occupied the front row behind him. His mother never stopped smiling. His sister looked at me with pity. His father folded his arms confidently. They had already decided how the day would end. The judge entered. "All rise." Everyone stood. After everyone was seated, the judge reviewed the case. "This matter concerns the dissolution of marriage, division of marital assets, and related financial disclosures." He looked toward Daniel's table. "Counsel, are both parties ready?" Daniel's attorney stood. "Yes, Your Honor." The judge turned toward me. "And you, Ms. Carter?" "Ready, Your Honor." He nodded. Very briefly. His eyes lingered on the stack of neatly organized binders sitting beside me. Daniel's attorney began first. For nearly 30 minutes, he painted a picture of me that barely resembled reality. According to him, I was irresponsible, financially careless, emotionally unstable, unable to contribute equally to the marriage. He claimed Daniel had supported me through countless personal struggles. He argued that Daniel deserved the majority of the marital assets because he had earned most of them. Each statement was delivered calmly, confidently, professionally. Occasionally, Daniel nodded in agreement. His family smiled after nearly every sentence. When the attorney finished, he looked toward me. "Your witness." The courtroom became very quiet. Everyone expected me to panic. I stood slowly, walked to the podium, placed my folder down, adjusted the microphone. Then I smiled. "Good morning, Your Honor." "Good morning. I'll keep my opening statement brief." The judge nodded. "Proceed." I took one slow breath. "My husband says this case is about money." His attorney smiled. "But it isn't. It's about honesty." Pause. "The evidence will show that Mr. Daniel Carter deliberately concealed marital assets, transferred money into undisclosed accounts, submitted incomplete financial disclosures, and repeatedly misrepresented his financial position to this court." The courtroom became noticeably quieter. Daniel's attorney stopped writing. Continued. "I intend to prove each statement with bank records, tax documents, property filings, emails, and recorded communications." Daniel's smile disappeared. His attorney immediately stood. "Objection. Counsel is making unsupported allegations." The judge looked toward me. "Ms. Carter." I calmly lifted the first binder. "Your Honor, every statement I made is supported by exhibits already submitted to the court yesterday afternoon." The courtroom froze. Daniel turned toward his lawyer. "What?" His lawyer opened his briefcase. He flipped through several papers. Then his expression changed. He hadn't expected additional evidence. Neither had Daniel. The judge reviewed the filing. After several moments, he looked back at me. "The exhibits appear to have been properly submitted." Daniel's attorney looked genuinely surprised. He clearly hadn't finished reviewing them. His confidence began slipping. For the first time, mine increased. The attorney called Daniel to testify. Daniel walked confidently to the witness stand. He swore the oath. Everything seemed normal. First, his attorney asked simple questions. "Did you provide financially for your wife?" "Yes." "Did you fully disclose your assets?" "Yes." "Have you been truthful throughout these proceedings?" "Absolutely." His answers were immediate. Smooth. Practiced. Exactly what they had rehearsed. Then the attorney finished. "Your witness." Stood. Walked toward the witness stand. Picked up a single sheet of paper. Nothing more. Daniel watched me confidently. He still believed I didn't know what I was doing. I smiled politely. "Good morning, Daniel." He forced a smile. "Good morning. We were married for 5 years." "Correct. You testified that you've disclosed every financial account you own." "Yes." "You are certain?" "I'm certain." I nodded slowly, then reached into my folder. I removed one bank statement. Just one. "Could you explain why this account ending in 4821 contains approximately $487,000? I paused deliberately. "When it wasn't included in your financial disclosure." The smile vanished from Daniel's face. His attorney immediately stood. "Objection." The judge raised his hand. "Overruled." He looked directly at Daniel. "You may answer." Daniel swallowed. "I." He glanced at his attorney. For the first time all morning, he didn't know what to say. Behind him, his mother's smile disappeared. His sister leaned forward in confusion. The courtroom, once filled with quiet laughter at the woman representing herself, had become completely silent. For several long seconds, Daniel didn't answer. The silence felt heavier than any argument. The judge looked directly at him. "Mr. Carter, the court asked you a question." Daniel cleared his throat. "That account isn't actually mine." I didn't react. Instead, I picked up another document. "Isn't it?" I walked toward the clerk and handed over the exhibit. "Your Honor, this is Exhibit 27. The judge adjusted his glasses and examined the document. "It appears to be a bank signature card." "Yes, Your Honor. It bears Mr. Carter's signature, his social security number, and his driver's license information." Daniel's attorney quickly stood. "Your Honor, we'd like a moment to review this document." The judge nodded. "You may." As the attorney studied the exhibit, his confident expression slowly disappeared. He leaned toward Daniel and whispered urgently. Daniel shook his head, then whispered back. Neither of them looked calm anymore. When the hearing resumed, I continued. "Mr. Carter, did you open this account on March 18th, 3 years ago?" Daniel hesitated. "Yes." "So the account is yours?" "Yes." "And yet you told this court it wasn't." He looked down. I misunderstood the question. The judge wasn't impressed. I think the question was quite clear. A few people in the gallery quietly exchanged glances. The atmosphere in the courtroom had completely changed. Earlier that morning, everyone had been watching me. No, every eye was on Daniel. I picked up another folder. "This account received multiple transfers from your primary business account." "Correct." Daniel looked toward his lawyer again. "Yes. Would you like to explain why those transfers were never disclosed during discovery?" He remained silent. The judge spoke. "You need to answer." Daniel finally said. "I forgot." The courtroom became so quiet that you could hear someone turning pages in the back row. "Forgot. Nearly $500,000. The excuse sounded ridiculous even before anyone said a word. I walked back to my table and picked up another exhibit. This is Exhibit 31. It contains email correspondence between Mr. Carter and his financial advisor. I handed copies to the judge and opposing counsel. Daniel's attorney read the first page. His face turned pale. The judge looked up. "Ms. Carter, would you summarize the relevance?" "Yes, Your Honor. The email discusses transferring marital assets into undisclosed accounts before filing for divorce." Daniel suddenly interrupted. "That's taken out of context." I looked at him calmly. "Would you like me to read the email aloud?" He didn't answer. The judge nodded. "You may proceed." I read only one sentence. "Move everything before she realizes what's happening. She'll never find it." The courtroom erupted into whispers. The bailiff immediately called for order. Daniel's mother covered her mouth. His sister stared at him in disbelief. His father looked down at the floor. For the first time, no one in his family was smiling. Daniel's attorney stood once again. "Your Honor, we'd like a short recess." The judge considered the request. "Granted. We'll reconvene in 15 minutes. During the break, I remained seated. I quietly reviewed my notes. Across the room, Daniel and his attorney argued in hushed voices. His attorney looked furious. He repeatedly pointed toward the exhibits. Daniel kept shaking his head. It looked less like a legal strategy session, and more like damage control. Several people in the gallery glanced at me. Earlier they had looked at me with sympathy. No, they looked at me with respect. When court resumed, Daniel's attorney appeared noticeably different. His confidence was gone. He spoke more carefully, almost cautiously. The judge addressed him. "Counsel, you may continue." He stood. "No further questions for my client at this time." The judge nodded. "Ms. Carter, your witness." I walked back to the podium. "Mr. Carter, have you ever claimed under oath that all marital assets were disclosed?" "Yes." "Were those statements true?" Silence. The judge waited. "So ordered, Mr. Carter." Daniel closed his eyes. Then quietly answered, "No." A wave of whispers spread through the courtroom. That single word changed everything. He had just admitted, under oath, that he had lied. I wasn't finished. I picked up another folder. "This concerns your relationship with Vanessa Brooks." Daniel immediately stiffened. His attorney looked genuinely surprised. He hadn't expected this topic. "Objection. Relevance." I answered before the judge spoke. "It relates directly to financial transfers made during the marriage." The judge nodded. "Overruled." I turned back toward Daniel. "Did you purchase a condominium 6 months before filing for divorce?" "Yes." "Who lives there?" Daniel hesitated. "No one." I placed another document before the judge. "Utility records indicate otherwise." Pause. "The electricity, internet, and insurance policies are all registered to Vanessa Brooks." The courtroom gasped. Daniel's mother looked completely stunned. She slowly turned toward her son. He couldn't even meet her eyes. I wasn't trying to embarrass him. I was proving a pattern. Hidden money, hidden property, hidden relationships. Every lie connected to the next. Every document confirmed the one before it. This wasn't revenge. It was evidence. And evidence doesn't care about excuses. Then came the moment Daniel feared most. I reached into my folder one final time. I held up a small flash drive. "This contains audio recordings voluntarily provided by Ms. Vanessa Brooks." Daniel's face turned white. His attorney whispered, "Is that?" Daniel didn't answer. The judge asked, "Were these recordings lawfully obtained?" "Yes, Your Honor. They were recorded by one of the participants in the conversations." The judge nodded. "I'll allow a limited portion." The courtroom became perfectly still. The clerk connected the recording. A voice filled the room. Daniel's voice. Confident. Cold. "She thinks she's too smart to lose." Was. Then another sentence. "By the time the divorce is over, she'll have nothing." No one moved. Then came the sentence that made the entire courtroom freeze. "If she ever figures it out, no one will believe her anyway." The recording ended. The silence afterward was louder than the audio itself. Daniel slowly lowered his head. His attorney closed his notebook. Without saying a word, he knew exactly what everyone else knew. The case had just changed forever. The silence after the recording felt endless. No one moved. No one spoke. Even the judge seemed to take an extra moment before looking up from his notes. Daniel remained frozen in the witness chair. The confident businessman who had walked into court that morning was gone. In his place sat a man whose own lies had finally caught up with him. His attorney slowly stood. "Your Honor," then stopped. For several seconds, he appeared unsure of what to say. Finally, he cleared his throat. "We request a brief opportunity to confer with our client." The judge nodded. "You may have 10 minutes. As soon as the recess began, Daniel's attorney pulled him aside. The conversation looked intense. The attorney spoke quickly. Daniel shook his head repeatedly. Then the attorney handed him several papers. Daniel stared at them. His shoulders dropped. For the first time since I had known him, he looked defeated. Not angry. Not frustrated. Defeated. Because facts are difficult to fight. And the truth is impossible to negotiate with. Meanwhile, I remained seated at my table. My hands rested calmly on the stack of binders. Months earlier I would have been trembling. Now I felt strangely peaceful. Win or lose, I had already achieved something important. I had stopped being afraid. For years, Daniel controlled my life through fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of failure. Fear of not being believed. But fear loses its power the moment you stop obeying it. And that morning I had finally stopped. When the hearing resumed, Daniel's attorney stood immediately. His voice sounded completely different now. More careful. More respectful. "Your Honor, after reviewing the evidence presented today, We would like to amend our position. A quiet murmur spread through the courtroom. Even Daniel's family looked surprised. The judge raised an eyebrow. Go on. We acknowledge that certain financial disclosures were incomplete. Certain. The word almost made me smile. $500,000 wasn't certain. It was deliberate. But I remained silent. The evidence could speak for itself. The judge spent the next hour reviewing documents, financial records, emails, property filings, and testimony. Every exhibit connected to another. Every lie led to a document. Every excuse led to a contradiction. Eventually, the judge removed his glasses and looked directly at Daniel. Mr. Carter. Daniel swallowed. Yes, Your Honor. The court finds that you intentionally concealed assets during these proceedings. The room became completely silent. The court further finds that your financial disclosures were materially inaccurate. Daniel looked down. The actions demonstrated today represent a serious violation of your obligations to this court. No one in the gallery made a sound. Not even his family. The judge continued. Because of these findings, the court will adjust the division of marital assets accordingly. Daniel's eyes widened. His attorney closed his eyes briefly. He already knew what was coming. The concealed assets will be included in the marital estate. The judge turned several pages. Additionally, due to the misconduct demonstrated today, the court awards a substantially larger portion of the marital assets to Ms. Carter. A collective gasp swept through the courtroom. Daniel's mother looked stunned. His father stared at the floor. His sister looked like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. Then the judge said something I will never forget. He looked directly at me. Ms. Carter. Yes, Your Honor. Representing yourself in a matter of this complexity is extraordinarily difficult. The courtroom listened carefully. You presented organized evidence, credible testimony, and relevant documentation. He paused. The outcome today is based on facts. But the court recognizes the preparation and professionalism demonstrated throughout these proceedings. For a moment I couldn't speak. Years of humiliation. Years of self-doubt. Years of being told I wasn't smart enough. Not good enough. Not capable enough. All of it seemed to disappear in that single moment. The hearing ended shortly afterward. People slowly began leaving the courtroom. The gallery buzzed with quiet conversations. Everyone seemed to be discussing the same thing. The woman who represented herself. The woman everyone thought would lose. The woman who won. I began gathering my papers. As I placed the final binder into my bag, I heard footsteps approaching. I looked up. It was Daniel. For a moment neither of us spoke. Then he quietly said, I never thought you'd do this. I looked at him. No. You never thought I could. He lowered his eyes. For once he didn't argue. For once, he didn't have a clever response. Because deep down, he knew it was true. A few seconds later his mother approached. The same woman who had laughed when I entered the courtroom. The same woman who had spent years criticizing me. She looked uncomfortable. Almost nervous. She stopped. Then tried again. I was wrong about you. I studied her face. For years I had dreamed about hearing those words. Yet now that they had finally arrived, they didn't matter. Because I no longer needed their approval. I smiled politely. Then simply said, I know. Outside the courthouse, the afternoon sun felt warm on my face. For the first time in years I felt free. Not because of the money. Not because of the verdict. Not because I had won. I felt free because I had finally discovered something nobody could ever take away from me. My own voice. For years I believed strength meant fighting harder. But real strength is different. Real strength is standing alone when everyone expects you to fall.